So we met at a bar in London, Sexy Fish. It just went from there, really. I met his family quite soon as well. I think like 2 years later we got married, 2.5 years later maybe. We had quite a long engagement. Yeah, it was love marriage, but I feel like it's scary, like I didn't really know who I married. I got pregnant quick as well. To be fair, I felt like I was a single mum from pregnancy, from early days of pregnancy, first trimester. Even though I was still with my partner, it didn't feel like it. And then now, because I've got a community of like single mums and
What's up, guys? I hope you're all well. Welcome back to another episode of the Podghost Podcast. Opposite me today is someone that I wanted to bring on. Literally got in touch with her a few days ago, and we're here today. I'd like to bring on life coach and very well-known single mum online, Saria. How are you? Did I say your name right?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, brilliant.
Saria,
It just spelled like that. I thought it might be Saria.
Everyone says it wrong, don't worry.
You know what? I came across your stuff not long ago. And straight away, I reached out to you and here we are.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you so much for coming on. It means a lot to me for, just to come on such short notice.
Yeah.
How you been?
I've been busy, mum life, but busy. I've just come back from holiday as well. So I'm a bit relaxed, but then little one got a bit ill. So
It's typical kids, isn't it?
It's just like the whole day goes. Sometimes I'm like, what have I done? But then it adds up, doesn't it?
Of course. Being a father myself, I know it's such a tricky thing, taking your little kids away. You know what? I want to go straight to it.
Yeah.
You're very well known online being a single mum. And I think you're one of them people that's very proud of being a single mum. You've taken it in your stride. And I want to go off straight away by saying, how did it get to the point of you being a single mum and where it all started and where it all went wrong? So I'll just leave it all with you.
To be fair, I felt like I was a single mum from pregnancy, from early days of pregnancy, first trimester. Even though I was still with my partner, it didn't feel like it. So obviously got pregnant and then very early days, found out a few things, things that you don't normally lie to your partner about. So from there, it kind of went downhill. But obviously tried to make it work throughout pregnancy. And I did used to say to my friend, once baby comes, things will be a lot better. Yeah. And she did actually warn me. She was like, not always, some men don't. And then baby came and things got worse and worse and worse. So I felt like I was always a single mom, to be fair. But then it really, we made it official. It was, it happened when we were I was 6 weeks postpartum. Then tried to make it work again, but then I think it was Christmas time. It was just no. But I feel like I've always been a single mum. And then
sorry to cut you. Before we speak about exactly what went wrong, I want to speak of how you guys met. Because I love knowing myself where you guys met. People obviously sometimes, whether it's an arranged marriage, whether, love marriage, whether it's online. Yeah. How did you guys actually meet?
So we met at a bar in London, Sexy Fish.
Bougie.
Yeah. And then it just went from there, really. But yeah, it was love marriage, but I feel like it's scary, like I didn't really know who I married. And then now, because I've got a community of single mums, and I was only married for just over a year, but some of these mums, they've been married, one of them 17 years and didn't know what her husband, who he really was. So in a way, I'm like, well, I'm glad I clocked on early days. But it just shows that, men, not all women as well, people can hide who they really are from the closest people. Some of the things were shocking, and obviously I won't go into detail with some of the stuff, but
of course,
some of the things I found out, I never thought that would happen, that he would do that to me. I thought he was one of the good ones. I've been with some other bad guys, but sometimes it's even scarier when they put a mask on. And do you understand what I'm saying? Of course. But
so how soon after of you guys meeting, did it get to the point of you thinking that he's the one? Was it soon?
It did, it happened quite quick. I met his family quite soon as well. And then I think like 2 years later we got married, 2.5 years later maybe. We had quite a long engagement. But then I think, I got pregnant quick as well. And I always say to people say, oh, marriage, you'll find out who someone really is.
Yeah.
I personally think no. I think you get pregnant and you really find out who a man is.
It's powerful, that.
Yeah, I really do. I've had women come to me, like I've said, I've got a community of mums now.
Yep.
And they've said to me, they didn't think their husband's been better than they thought they would. And then obviously women in my case, I just couldn't believe it. But I think getting pregnant is a true test, because women change too. Can't do what we used to do. Obviously we're going through loads of, and it's like, who's really there for you? Not just men as well. I would say friends, family.
Yep.
I've learned so much just as a whole, who's really been there for me and who hasn't. I
can imagine. But obviously when you say, you started to see after you fell pregnant, that you start seeing flaws, let's say.
Yeah.
Before that, was there no red flags that, you probably just ignored?
Yeah. There were red flags. I did ignore them. Lies that were quite big, but not to the extent of lies I found out about. Those were red flags, just things he used to say, like, won't go into it, but even people around him would do, you know what I'm saying? Like your circle. So, yeah.
I think you're holding back. We'll make it clear you're going through something where you can't openly speak about the things the way you probably want to speak about.
Yeah.
And that is fully understandable.
Yeah.
And, we don't really want to go into the whole what was said and how it was, because until we don't have the clarity and stuff like that to do so.
Yeah.
But like you said, now, if we go back to the time you fell pregnant and you felt like you were a single, let's just say a woman pregnant without a partner.
Yeah.
Was there a time, was there a certain something that might have happened at that time where you felt like, you know what, I don't think we're going to work? Was there something that triggered you, or was it something that you just thought long term, I can't do this anymore?
So going back to when I got pregnant, there were some times where I thought, it's because once I found out the first few lies, then I obviously started getting like detective mode, like anyone would. That's when, before you trust someone, so you're not gonna, and then you start getting detective modes, you start picking up on things more, and then it was like lie after lie, like every week, like big, small, whatever it was a time to build back the trust, and it just got worse and worse. The constant lies kept going on, and I, like I said, I even said to my friend, like, I don't see him stop lying, but maybe when baby comes, that was my bit of hope, that when my son came, that he'd change, but no, it was changed for the worse.
That's mad. You did think, like, being a father myself, after a woman gives birth to your child, you just feel like a lot more, I don't want to say cliche, you fall in love more, but you do have that respect more, especially after seeing what they've gone through, and you're carrying his child at the end of the day. And this is just my opinion. It's not something I'm saying. A lot of people go through all sorts of rides and roller coasters. But in your case now, if we fast forward, after your baby was born, and like you said, you thought he would hopefully change. Why do you think he didn't change?
One, I don't think he was ready to be a father. And two, I think the thing is, I think he didn't realize the responsibilities, for one. A lot of men don't.
Yep.
But that's one thing. But then also, I've done a lot of research on like narcissists and stuff, and I'm not saying directly he's one, because but some of the traits they fit, and narcissists only have a problem when you find out who they really are.
Yep.
And obviously, I started finding out back from February when I found out I was pregnant. So then at that point, they kind of want to run from the situation rather than address it. And that's what he kind of wanted to do.
Yep.
But I don't understand, because, like at the end of the day, like for me, like my son is unconditional love. Like there's nothing that matters, whatever. But I don't know. You don't understand what goes through people's brains. It's
just like a guessing game, isn't it?
I can't comprehend it, honestly. I genuinely can't. But I think that's the main reason why I think narcissists, they want to run from a situation. And that's what they want to do. And they only have a problem when you find out. Everything's like fine before that, when you start finding out who they really are.
You know, I want to speak about the fact that obviously we're in the South Asian community. As you get older, you see that this is a very common problem in our communities. And I remember speaking to you on the phone and we did touch up on this. Why do you think that in the South Asian community it's become a bigger problem than it ever used to be? Would you blame social media or would you blame just the way the society is now?
Yeah, I think social media is one thing. Obviously, people could think they can just go on there and whatever.
Yep.
Tomorrow they can have someone new. There's all these apps now, you know, you can hire people, whatever. But I think family, like even in so I've got 2 group chats. I've got one for general motherhood and one for just single moms going through stuff with like absent fathers and stuff. And a lot of it is down to the mums and how they've been raised. And obviously, it's not all South Asian mums. Like my brother's been raised amazing. He won't let anyone say anything to his wife, and he would never, you know, do what's happened to me. But there is a handful of South Asian mums that I think have spoiled the son a bit too much, and then the men think they can do no wrong. And it's not like back in the day, like men were men back in the day. They knew their responsibilities. And like even my friend now, she's in the dating world, she's still single. She's like, Saria, like they're all princesses. And I think that's what one of the issues is. I think some of these South Asian men, they're princesses. And I'm sure you've seen on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen the trend of like women trying to go out dating and then you see them paying the bill, them carrying the bags. It is sad, but it's a bit like that now. And and I think with the South Asian community, I think a lot of it is down to the way they've been brought up.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do think that, you know, mothers have the tendency of letting especially their boys, it is a form of being spoiled. You know, no one can do nothing wrong to them or no one can say nothing to them. Whatever they do is fine.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a lot. I have, actually seen it a lot where, you know, it's kind of hypocritical because you wouldn't want your own daughter to go through that. But when if your daughter-in-law was, going through something that, you know, your daughter was going through, it's just, I don't understand it. I never have. I've never been able to put a finger on it. Where if you just, you know, say to someone, you know, your brother or your son is doing that, they'll be like, yeah, but he's a boy. He can do whatever he wants. But I think with the girls, it's a very difficult situation because especially being a mother when you've had kids, I just feel like it shouldn't be as easy as walk out. And I think the mothers and fathers should intervene at that point.
Yeah, that's what my family couldn't even understand. They were like, if my brother did this, we'd be like, what are you doing? You've got a family now. You can't just do that. But that's what I'm saying. Some parents just don't, you know, and like I said, it's not just my situation. A lot of the single mums that have built the community, it comes from the mum. I'm not trying to say we just sit there slagging off the mums and stuff, but it's a common issue. Don't get me wrong, there are some of the single mums that say no, the mum, you know, she's not speaking to the ex-husband or whatever, she wants, you know, but majority, it seems like son can do no wrong, don't say anything to him, and and that's why I think because they don't know right from wrong.
Yep.
And they can't. They just think they can just get away with. They've been babied their whole life. You know, they can't handle a bit of pressure when responsibilities come along. They don't know what to do. And I think now, I know, like I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure my son Ario, that he turns out a gentleman and that he never does treats any, you know, woman like the way I've been treated. And I think a lot of women of this generation will do that because they've gone through it, because it is like a generational problem where, you know, where men are not doing their duties, as, you know, like there's so much single mums now. And I think that's why I think the next generation, there might be a bit stronger men because their mums are gonna not do the mistakes of.
All said. Yep.
You know.
And because they probably see their mum going through it.
Yeah.
I'm sure your little man, God bless him, when he grows up and sees, for an example, this podcast or any other content that you've put out, because you're not shy to put anything out. You know, you're very open about everything.
Yeah, and I get hate for it. But some people say, I don't know if you saw the comments on that Surname. I mean, can I ask you, what's your thoughts on me? It was a joint decision. We changed my son's surname to mine. Do you think it's...
Not at all. Not at all. The funny thing is, if you're not going to be a part of your son's life, he don't deserve your surname. You know, he deserves a lot better than that. Because I don't think any real man, again, this is a situation, just speaking hypothetically, because there are men going through a lot of stuff, and their situation, I don't know them watching this thinking, well, our situation was completely different.
Yeah.
But I just think if a man's going to walk out on his own kids, the kids, whatever they name them, Charlie, George, it don't matter. They can call whatever they want. And I thought personally, I respected you for that. I think that was a good decision.
Yeah. And also people were saying in the comments, it's out of spite, but I think they're forgetting I can't go and change that name without the parents' consent. It was a joint decision. And
so he obviously approved of it.
Yeah. Wow. It was actually his suggestion. So I don't, you probably not seen the video, but I literally had to explain myself on Instagram. It's shocking. I had to explain why we changed my son's name, but I was going to go in for the double barrel. Okay. And on that same day, he said, oh, do you just want to take off his surname? And I was like, okay then. So I was like preparing this whole speech to go in for like double barrel, and it was actually his suggestion. So that's why people are like, what you doing out of spite? No, it wasn't even me I was going to go in for double barrel.
That's mad. That's absolutely crazy. It's like disowning your own son, really, isn't it? I'm not saying it is that case.
Yeah, I know.
You wouldn't do that otherwise, would you?
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't, that's what, it was a joint decision. And when it all even, kicked off, he even said to me, like, even I'm confused why you're getting all this hate online. But you know what it is? It's just like patriarchal men coming in and they don't like it when they see a woman.
No, the truth is, look, Saria, the truth is, whatever you put out online,
you're always going to get
You're going to get. Yeah. We're seeing the situation that's going around the world now. They can say wrong is right, and there'll be people actually supporting the right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw recently, there was a case in America where a lady got racist to a little kid in a park. Just a little thing about how people can just agree with what's wrong. She's called a baby an N-word. Right. He's a little kid. He must have been 6 years old. God. The kid was autistic. And cutting it all down, she put a page up on GoFundMe, and she's made £500,000 saying I need to relocate. And there's actually people that have supported her. So what you're saying, that supports the argument that you could be so wrong. And but there's people out there, I'd call them idiots, to be honest, because they are. They should, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. You don't mix the two, and I think that's the problem with the world today. This whole freedom of speech has gone completely out of what it's meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So in your situation, good on you, especially if it was a joint decision. People just technically mind their own business. But if they are going to give an opinion, I think there's a way of giving an opinion.
Some of the stuff that was being said, like I've got troll comments before, but some of the stuff where it was getting to me a bit, but it is what it is. And I know it's going to, be the best thing for my son in the future. So, and I've had people message me as well saying you did the right thing. My kid, they changed their name when they were 16 to my name anyways. So, and they wish that they changed it sooner because, they do really realize who's the present parent.
Of course. So let's just say fast forward down the line. He decides he wants to get back with you. Is that an absolute no-go?
That is an absolute no. That is like I put my life on it.
So your life's on it now. Okay.
My life is on it.
So what if he says to you, I want to be a part of my son's life?
So he sees him now and then. Now, I think, but I've never stopped that. Even now, if anything, actually, when we called it quits, I was actually begging, and I've had to obviously get proof of it as well. So I've literally my whole life is like a proof at the moment. I was begging him and his family to come. I didn't want to, and so but I've never stopped them. Obviously, in the future, who knows? The only thing is, a lot of men, they want to be more involved when the kids are older.
Yep. And
in my eyes, that's just, it's just a bit fake because, the hard work's done. And now, we want to, we have a realization. No, it's just the hard work's done now. It's all fun and games. It's just a bit fake, if you ask me. But
I agree, by the way.
Yeah, but I don't want anyone thinking that I ever like restricted, no, you can't come. I've actually done the opposite, said, you know, come. It was them. And like I've said, I've actually to back this up. Even my parents reached out, come, and they've rejected it. What can you do? I'm not going to force someone, and that's it. I'm not going to keep begging. I realized then, and this was months and months ago, you know, and that's it, you know.
You know, it's astonishing to listen to your story, because I just think like, not only did you have a child, but I think people forget the fact that ladies go through depression, especially after having a baby, because you know, I've always and I always feel like men always play the victim. And I'm not saying it's all men. Like, I wouldn't play the victim if my wife's watching. She knows I wouldn't. Maybe to her I do, but no one else. I don't play.
Pains.
Yeah, I wouldn't play the victim, because at the end of the day, if you think your life's gone hard, I always feel like, for yourself, for an example, you've got ambition, you've got career, all that stuff kind of stops.
It does.
For the foreseeable future. Maybe you can go back into it after a few years. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they get pregnant or when they're having kids, that the woman actually loses herself. But then now to think that he's walked out on you as well, I think that's a bit of a low blow if you really deep it.
Yeah, my hormones. So it's like the biggest hormonal drop. Like, I don't think a man will ever experience something like that after you give birth.
Yep.
So I was obviously going through all of that, adjusting to like motherhood, 0 sleep, recovering from a C-section. I couldn't even walk. Imagine me being a fitness freak. I couldn't even walk. So much going on. And, you know, I couldn't even get a little, are you okay? I had to send a fat paragraph when my son was 1 week old. I was 1 week postpartum, asking why I couldn't get a, are you okay? You know, he'd gone to work, didn't ask how me or the baby are. Like, it took him like the whole day. Well, not even to ask how I went. The victim card came out. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't feel right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm the one who's just given birth. And even if you don't feel, it's a humane thing. I've just undergone C-section. Your son is 1 week old. You can ask how we are. Do you understand what I'm saying?
100%.
But it is shocking. That's what I mean. I'm shocked as well. I thought someone like him could never, in my eyes, it's like pure evil, some of the stuff that I went through.
Do you feel like, I don't want to say do you regret it, because I feel like everything that's happening in your life is meant to be.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But do you? Yeah. That's what I was just going to say, because I don't think anyone should really regret any experience they've had, because you're still young, you still got your whole life ahead of you. But do you sometimes wish you, let's say, reacted differently when you start seeing the red flags? Because I feel like a lot of women, they let them go, and then the man seems to get more confident, thinking, if I did that and got away with it, if I did that and got away with it,
that's what happened.
I could do what the fuck I want.
Yeah. One of the lies was constant all the time, and it must have been 4 or 5 times, lectures. He just kept doing it, like, I've got away with it. And I was like, oh my God. But no, because like I said, I wouldn't have my son then.
Of course. It's a bigger blessing.
Yeah,
having a child.
I always say to people, it's the butterfly effect, isn't it? So I believe in that so much. And I don't have no regrets, and I do believe everything does happen for a reason. I've learned a lot from the whole experience. God, my trust issues are proper.
Yeah, I was going to say
I was like, literally, next time if I ever date someone, I was like, joking around with my friends, I was like, I'm going to have to ask for their bank statements, their location, what apps they're using, who they're talking. God help the next man.
But you know what? Yeah, exactly. You're watching this and you're trying to hit Saria up. You might have to go for, a little examination before
It's not my fault. I'm sorry.
I think there's a lot of women who go through stuff like this. And I've seen it really close as well, where men can just change. And I don't know, and I can safely say I don't know, because I know, personally, I could never, ever even consider doing that to my partner or my kids or my family even, because there is a thing called Surname. We are Asians.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you lose that, I just think now the society accepts that. I genuinely think they just, men seem like they're more superior than women. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it's what we've been taught.
Yeah.
And not a particular parent or a single caste. Like I said, it's a South Asian thing.
Yeah.
I feel like men can, I've had women on the show before where they've had, abusive marriages, and some of the shit they told me, till this day, I still can't fathom it. I still don't understand it, how people can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And your situation, I feel like, you got married, you're young couple. It could have been so much better. It could have been the way you wanted it to be. But I think social pressure plays a big part. I do honestly think they probably feel like, why do I need to wake up in the morning? Why do I need to give her a hand with kids? And
I think obviously in my case, it was a lot of like, not all men lie like that. And it was a lot of like, compulsive lying is the thing. And I was sold a whole lie. And it was, how long does that go on for? Wooing someone's different. Then you don't marry someone based on these like lies, because you can't live up to it. And that's what happened. You couldn't live up to his lies. So
when you say he couldn't live up to his lies, was it financially based as well?
Everything. Yeah. And it's to me, I don't care about how much money someone makes. Obviously women,
to an extent,
like women, we do obviously want, let's be honest, we want financial security if we're going to have a family.
Especially, of course.
And especially like now I've gone through being a mother, there is a reason why the men are the providers, because we are literally the ones that, it's our bodies, it is in our bodies, right? And so it's not about how much money you make to an extent. But for me, what I find attractive and always have is ambition. So when I found out some stuff, I was like, okay, you're not actually ambitious. And that's where I'm like, so going back to your question from earlier, would you, if you did ever say, oh, let's get back together? Hell no, because he's not even my type. Do you understand what I'm saying?
100%.
Like, men can put that much of a mask on. Like I said, some of the women I speak to, it's like 17 years down the line and they're finding out this mask. But I found it quite soon. But yeah.
I don't personally believe it's a mask. I think it's more, like I told you, it's about, someone being comfortable. I feel like if you've lied to a little white lie, we all do.
White lies are fine.
But when you start taking the lies a bit serious, I think there should be showdown talks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean pull out the knives or, start beating each other up.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it is going to go down that route, I think it's important to sit down and talk about it, of why you feel the need to lie, and that's on both sides.
So I really tried this with him, but I was, there was a lot of emotional abuse going on when I was with him, and I couldn't. He didn't I wasn't apparently allowed to ask him why.
So he didn't like you questioning him at all.
Didn't like it. Tried to gaslight me, and also the biggest thing was try and manipulate the story to other people.
Yeah.
Whether it be his family, my family, and I soon started clocking he was doing that. And it got to the point where I had to prove I don't, when you have an argument with your wife, you don't call your mum up or your dad up or their mum up. But, he was trying to manipulate it. So then I had to start proving to my mum and dad, look, this is the thing, because I knew what he was doing. I even I was 3 weeks postpartum. First time going out with my friends, I sat there because I knew him at that point. I was like, I bet he's sitting there telling my mum and dad a bunch of lies. Came back, asked my mum. Next day, called him, put him on speaker. I was like, here you go, mum. And then she saw and heard the stuff. But there was so much emotional abuse. Even when I was on my last legs of pregnancy, I was walking around the streets, about to pop, crying my eyes out. Bless my friend. She came from Birmingham. And I was waiting for her for like an hour. And no water, dying for a toilet. I was, when you're pregnant.
Of course.
And that's how much the emotional abuse was crazy now that I look back on it. And going through pregnancy as well. I used to have to ask my friends and my family, like, oh my God, like, am I just being crazy because of my hormones? And they're like, no. They're like, this is bad. Because, I was obviously hormonal as well. I think I actually, because I felt like I could never say anything because there was so much emotional abuse. I'm so glad, like, now, I have got that freedom of speech. And I think I've even still, there's still been some emotional abuse after, like trying to suppress my emotions. But like you said earlier, it's freedom of speech. Yes, you can't lie online and stuff like that, but no one's doing that. And there's certain things I won't, ever say online because of, you don't need to share every little thing. But to say, I'm a single mom, I was emotionally abused, this, that, what's wrong in that? And I held it in for so long, that's the thing as well.
Do you regret the fact you held it in for too long?
I regret the fact that I didn't kind of show, when I started knowing that he was manipulating stories. I just regret the fact that I didn't I didn't like getting my parents. I only did it when I really had to, like, but because he would go running to his mum every time. And that was the only thing. I don't feel like that was a thing. Like, I don't feel like you have to go running to your parents every time.
No, agreed.
I regret the fact that I didn't show them that his true colours earlier. But, you know, sometimes you don't want to do that, because then if you do, because things weren't that bad then, because then if you do fix it, you don't want them to look at him differently and stuff. You understand? But that's the only thing I probably do regret. But yeah, no. Other than that, I think I was so, when you're in it, you just don't realise it as much. You just want it to work,
don't you?
Yeah, you just, to be honest, like I said, for me, it was when baby comes, he's going to change. Then obviously when baby came, it did get really bad. I still did, when he left, when I was baby was 6 weeks old, I did, you know, try and make it work. I said, marriage counselling, I said, even maybe you go therapy as well. And, you know, no. And then there was just a lot of instability. And then when Christmas happened, I was really, really disrespected, and more emotional abuse went on. And that was it. I was like, no, this is not good for my son. He always comes first. My son can't be dealing with this. And then after that, just a couple of days after we did call it quits, I was a bit confused. And so I did a bit of digging, and I did find out some really, really shocking stuff. But I'm so glad I did, because that made everything so much more easier, because I was still quite confused up and down. And you know, when you find something that's so disturbing, you're like, oh my God, I still can't believe it sometimes what I found out, but it made everything so much easier, because it's just ultimate. Yeah. And that's another reason why, if, you know, going back to your question, the thing I found out is, that is another reason why I would never
go back.
Yeah, I would never lower my standards that much, honestly.
But, you know, because obviously you can't go into exactly what findings you found.
Yeah.
But there must be something very serious for you to be like, I could never see him like that again. Yeah,
it's a whole different ball game. And obviously I was seeing his true colours, but this is just seeing someone completely different. Yeah, it's like the worst of the worst. I even if someone paid me £1 million to get back to him, it wouldn't know.
It's crazy, you know, you just feel like you know someone for such a long time. And I'm just trying to put myself in your position. But then to think, I don't even know you. I never knew you.
Yeah.
I think that's the scariest part about your story. And I think it's, you know, anyone that's going through a situation, and like I see it quite frequently now, as maybe because I'm getting older. I see it like, you know, people just think it's as easy as just get up and leave. They don't realize the damage it does emotionally to a person.
Yeah.
And I think them things potentially, like you just said now, we know we laughed about it, about you moving on.
Yeah.
It could affect his life. It could affect him as a person, thinking, I really like her, but she's mentally not 100%. And I think that all stems from your ex-husband doing that without realizing the effect it has on a person. It's always gonna have an impact on my life, because the amount of emotional abuse I've been through, I don't know if I'll ever trust someone again. But yeah, so it's that. And then also, obviously I will make sure my son is so loved and give him everything he needs. But, you know, I always say to people, I don't really care at this point what he's done to me, but more of things that he's, you know, how my son's been treated. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. And that's what I care. That's what hurts me the most. Not actually what he's done to me, not that shocking thing I found out, but how my son's been treated in it. You know, again, it's sent directly to him. I don't know him, and I always think there's two sides to a story, and I have to put that out because that is the case in every story. But obviously, listening to you and knowing you now, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. And because you're in front of me, I just feel like a lot of people out there struggle with having children. They have their own issues and stuff, and I feel like when it is given to you, and for someone to not appreciate that, I personally find that really, really hard to believe. I find that really, like, it's actually sickening. No one can understand it
people have said to him, literally had it all, you know, beautiful family, beautiful home. But then people like that, they're never going to be happy. But a lot of, again, it goes back to maybe the men of this generation, the way they've been brought up, maybe they prefer the bachelor life.
Yeah, I think
as opposed to, but then it is sad because then there's men out there and there's couples out there that are dying for kids, and you know it's not easy. I know loads of people that are going through stuff, but it's like two ends of the spectrum. There's men out there dying for kids; they'll do anything for their kids. I've seen men out there that didn't even want to be dads, and they're the best dads. As soon as the baby's born, that unconditional,
it just hits them, doesn't it?
Exactly, and then there's men out there that. You know,
I think, you know what, without having no dig at no men, because I think, like I said, I think with all men, it's their upbringing plays a big part.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. A lot of men, you know, they'll be like, you know, we're not doing this. We don't need to do that. We don't need to help her. She's a woman. She should do it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, even though I personally don't believe in that. I believe in helping out and doing things as a team. I think there's a lot of love in that. And I feel like the woman appreciates you more and you appreciate her more.
Yeah.
But again, it always matters on the dynamic of your family, because there are some men a lot of men who actually go away for work.
Yeah.
And they're not in the country and they're working for their family.
Yeah.
And the wife's doing everything herself.
Yeah.
But then there's other people that do things together as friends and they make it as fun as they can whilst they can. Because as we know, life isn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said about the bachelor life, I think a lot of men miss that. When they have their kids, they miss the fact they can't see their boys.
Yeah.
They can't see, you know, stop watching the football. They can't go out no more. And I think men find that harder to adapt to than women.
Yeah, because there were some comments, even like after I've given birth, there was a lot of pressure from him, and he kept saying, when you stop breastfeeding, but that's a good, obviously, I'm not saying not everyone can breastfeed, but it's not a bad thing to breastfeed.
Of course.
So I want to breastfeed. And then I just think, again, it was very...
he didn't like the fact that you didn't do it?
Yeah, because I think he wanted me to go out with him, and he was like, we'll go out in London when it was Christmas time. You can leave the baby with my mum and dad. Baby didn't even know the mum and dad. I'm not going to leave my...
Of course.
I don't think it hit him.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to go out. What? Like, even just
you can see it from your face.
Saying it just gets me so confused, and I just don't know what was going through his brain. Very unrealistic, living in La La Land a lot, and it's that.
You know, I love the fact that you can talk about it and still have a smile on your face, because it just shows the courage and the self-respect you have for yourself now. And I feel like maybe you've done all the crying.
100%.
And even on the phone when I spoke to you, the way you spoke about it, there's no filter. And I feel like, and the whole point of this podcast was to reach out to the people that are going through this, you know, because a lot of people, I feel, stay quiet while they're not happy.
Because South Asians are so judgmental. That's the thing. And the single mums get the stigma. Even on that video, the name change, apparently it's the mum's fault, but, you know, single mums get the stigma, not, you know, the father. It's just shocking.
Why do you think that is, though? If I was to ask you, because you're going through it, why do you feel like all the crap, let's say, goes towards a woman? And I mean, if you spoke to like people outside, again, we're not attacking our culture and attacking our heritage and stuff, but why is it the case where the woman is the one that gets tarnished, even though the man could be the complete knob?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's patriarchal men. That's one thing. And then I think maybe it's the older generation that think men are superior, you know, like, not so much this generation, but the older generation, it'll be the women that think the boys are superior, so blame the woman kind of thing. I really don't know, though, because it, you know, most 99% of the time, well, let's say 90% of the time, it is the single mum doing all the hard work, showing up for the child. Oh, don't get me wrong, there are cases where it's of
course,
but it's very rare, and I don't know why that's the mum's fault.
You know, again, like I said to you before, and I think it is the fact that it is the way you've been brought up. It is your dynamics of what dynamics you've been brought up in. But in your situation, I feel like the whole thing probably just became too much for him. Maybe the lies got the better of him. He couldn't live that lie anymore. And again, I'm not judging him. I'm just speaking about what the conversation we're having. Yeah. And my verdict on it would be, first, I don't think you ever knew him. I don't think you guys were compatible. Well, it could be. I'm just saying, and to think that he did so much wrong in between, and then you found out a lot more after. It just shows that you didn't really judge him the way you thought you would, or you did. And I think that's where a lot of relationships nowadays, either they rush into marriage or they don't think it through. Yeah. And I think that's a common problem. And that could have been anyone. That could have been me. That could have been, like in your situation, it could be anyone. And we see it more often than not now. So a lot of people are watching this will know someone or are going through it themselves.
It's so common now. But it's like going back to social media, and like I said, a lot of these men of this generation are princesses. I know people now that, one of my good friends just had a baby via a sperm donor, and good for her, because why wait around for a man?
Yep, that's mad.
And no, you don't have that expectation. You don't have that expectation. I was going to do it with, I've come to terms with it. Like you said, now I don't cry about it. But when I was 6 weeks postpartum, when he first left, I was a mess. I remember mum and dad calling me that day. I was like, no, I can't speak. And then when it happened for Christmas, I knew it was happening then anyway. So I was prepared for it. But, all that crying's done. And
you can see it.
I'm in a much better place now than then. Then it was horrible.
Speaking on the brighter side, the fact that you take everything online, and you always post up your beautiful little boy. Yeah. And I feel like the courage you have, you start to kind of put that good energy in your content, because your content is great. It's lovely. It's good to watch. It's fun. It's, something that you love doing. Yeah. What do you think about the fact that, how does you being a single mum affect your content life and your work life? Tell us the difficulties in that, even though it's pretty obvious.
As in, I think since becoming a single mom, I think it's helped so many women, like going through, they're not even single, they're married single. And they message me and they just tell me their problems. And I think they respect me because I do listen to them. And like I said, I've got a community of single moms as well. I offer if they want to join in there. But I think they like my content as well because it doesn't show. I think people are scared to do it alone. And I'm literally showing I'm living my best life. Yep. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Of course.
And that's why I like to, even today I posted a video saying how to get a bit of me time on holiday. And as a joke, I put gate crash your parents' holiday, which is what happened. But, it's not like having a partner is the be all and end all. There's, even if you've not got parents, there's family, friends. Mums make it work. Some of my single moms friends, if they want to go to the gym, they find one with a creche, so you can just leave the baby. And the mums are super women. They will find a way to make it work. And that's why I try and say to people that message me that they're going through so much stuff. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of it and what exactly is true and not. But I'm like, if that's happening, that's not on. But don't feel scared to do it alone. Because I felt scared originally, but now it's actually easier for me. It was harder when it was in that situation.
No, I fully understand. I'm listening, I think. Yeah. What would be your message for someone that's watching this and they're thinking, we don't have the courage or I can't use the word balls, but I mean,
do it for your kids.
Yeah, the strength to come out and talk.
I would say, if you're thinking of, if you're going through something, and you mean not gonna leave, don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, someone who just takes the abuse and just sits there and thinks it's fine and honestly accepts it.
Do it for your kids. My main reason was I don't want my son to think this is acceptable behavior, because then he will grow up thinking it's acceptable. He might do it to someone, or someone might treat him that way and he might think, oh, it's normal. That's my main reason, because the kids see everything and they will learn what's right and wrong going back to it. And I don't want him thinking that was right. I don't want him to ever treat a woman like that or do whatever's been done. So that's the main reason, because you don't want that. One, it was a very toxic environment when he was around. My ex-partner was no good, for my son. But two, the main reason is I don't want him growing up thinking this is how you treat a woman. This is normal behavior. This is, again, even if someone treated him like that. So that's the main reason. You got to do it for your kids. They see everything.
It's so true. And it gets embedded in them, don't it?
Yeah.
Whatever they see, it's like they're like sponges.
And
literally.
they'll learn self-love and self-worth. Like my son will look back and know what I went through. And because when he's old enough, he'll obviously ask questions and I'll talk to him, I'll tell him. And he'll learn. And I know people, people my generation that have been brought up by single moms, and they know exactly what their mom went through, and they've turned out amazing, and if not,
absolutely
better off people because they've seen, what a fighter their mom was and stuff. So that's what I think. I think do it for your kids. You don't want, if anything, and I know people as well that have come to me and said, because obviously back in the day it was harder, it was more frowned upon, divorce, and they've come to me and they've said, I wish my mum left my dad. I've got trauma because of my dad being around.
That's mad.
That is mad, yeah.
To think they grew up like that.
Yeah. So sometimes it does more harm than good. Not sometimes. If it's that situation, it will do more harm than good.
That's crazy how you brought up generations, because I feel like back in the day, there was no voice, there was no social media, there was no cameras, there was none of this stuff where I feel like at that time, men could do what the F they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, every man at the back of his head will think, you know what, I don't want to take the piss because it could come out, or it could be something where she might go online and talk. And there's been very big cases where, all of the media and stuff where women have been abused. It happened to a footballer a couple of years ago where she came out and said, I got beaten up.
Yeah.
And the guy got sacked by his club. And we're talking about a big club as well. We're not even talking about some Sunday league sort of footballers. Yeah. And to think that, the courage she had to go online to speak about it. Yeah. And I think it's a rather good thing in that sense.
Yeah, you can speak about it, raise awareness, and it's true. And a lot of men, I think that's all they care about is their reputation. Oh my God, what's she going to post on social media? Oh, well, you should have thought about your reputation before. Because back in the day, there was none of that. It was so easy for you to get, but also women had to just deal with stuff. And that is why, now I always say there's a reason why, but when you were younger, my parents and other people's parents must have said to their daughters, don't rely on a man, go get your own education, go get your own career, because I think they were trying to send us an indirect message, don't depend on a man, because now women can. Like, we literally can do it all.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So...
that's the craziest thing about how it used to be and how it is now. There are negatives, but there's also a lot of positives as well, where a woman can go out and work and support her husband or even support her child, without having the need to think, I need a man. Well, I think back in the day, it was more the woman had to rely on her husband for everything.
Yeah.
And that's where men, I felt, had that ego trip where they felt like, anything you need, you're going to ask me anyway.
Yeah.
But nowadays, women... good on them. A lot of them actually eclipse their husbands. Yeah. They actually, do better than their husbands are doing. And the husbands actually appreciate them.
Yeah.
But I feel like overall, in perspective, before wrapping up, marriage and these things are not as easy as we think. No. Growing up, we thought Shah Rukh Khan's going to be with me and I'm going to be with this girl or that girl. And you feel like I'm going to have this many kids, I'm going to have that many. It's weird how we plan these things.
Yeah. I don't think marriage will be a big thing in my son's generation. I don't think it might be a thing. I think people just get together, live together, have kids. But I don't see it being as big as
I would share that, but obviously as Muslims, there is no way that's going to ever happen.
Okay. I don't know. I just think because of the divorce rates.
Oh, yeah.
It's higher than ever, isn't it?
Divorce rates, before we do, wrap up, that's a good topic to end on. Divorce rates. Do you reckon, back in the day, I remember people used to say, love marriages will always end bad. Mum knows best. Mummy knows best.
Yeah.
Listen to an arranged marriage, mum knows best. But I feel like that died as well, where women and guys, we didn't want to get married to who mum said or who dad says. But looking back at it now, would you want a hand in who your son marries, or would you just say, look, marry who you want, knowing what you've been through yourself?
Oh, it's tricky. As in, I don't think I would, because say if you read them wrong and then I'm so traumatized. That's why, because I have obviously read someone's so wrong. But then, yeah, that's my worry. I read them so wrong, and then my son goes through something, and then it's my fault.
There's no win, basically.
There's no win.
You know, with me and my missus, we sit there, we're like, you know what? We're going to ask so many questions.
I'll do all the, let him, pick, and then I'll do all the investigation. Behind the scenes. Women are good investigators. We are,
they're the best.
Trust me.
Trust me, I know that. I just feel like it is important now, because you look at the society of today, and I feel like sometimes you can be blinded in love. I don't believe it's love. I always believe it's lust in the beginning, where you don't want to hear anything negative about one. Someone could tell you he's this, or someone could tell you a girl's this, and you go against it. You're like, nah, I know her, or I know him, and in the end, you're like, why didn't we just fucking listen? We knew it. We just ignored it. And I think that's a mistake that people make. Yeah. And wrapping up on that point, I think it's, if you are going to go into a marriage, what would you say, the red flags, we always bring them up, because I always believe no one just changes. There's always little bits. Red flags are something where I think, if you see that happening, what would you advise people to maybe
I would say that, if you're seeing some lies that are obviously, like, white lies are fine, but if you're seeing some lies that ain't on, like I said, wooing someone's different, but if you're going to get married, if you're going to get married, you shouldn't be lying about who you are, because don't do that. But if if you're on the receiving end of the lies, then I would say, I don't know. I would say really maybe do some digging before you get married. True. Extra digging, like, so what if you look like a weirdo? I don't think that's a weirdo. No, I don't think there's anything. It's actually kind of like looking out for your own self. Yeah, exactly. Because you're going to be living with. You might think you trust someone. Even I did, but still do that extra digging. I would say, you trust me. Like, you can think you can trust someone, and some of the stuff, like I've said, not even I've heard, some of the stuff I've heard from all these mums is shocking. What people go through. Yeah, what people go through. And then sometimes it makes my story doesn't seem as bad, because then I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more worse things going on. But I think you can definitely do some extra digging and be a bit aware. So there we have it, guys. Before we do go, your group, if someone wants to join your group, send me a DM. Yeah. Send you a DM. I'll put all the information in the caption below, the description, everything will be in there. So before we wrap up, thank you so much, Saria, for coming on and sharing your story with us. It's been lovely having you on. So there we have it, guys. That was Saria on the show. If you liked what you saw, do make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next week, peace, love. We're out. Thank you.